Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys said it well on your show with Hayden Winks, where you talked about the fact that the NFL is changing, and we almost just have to not prejudge this class for what it is, because they're coming in as part of a different world of the passing game in general. And a lot of these guys, I think their size a couple of years ago would have freaked people out, but the speed with some of them absolutely changes the way you look at them. Who's sort of the first guy you studied that really jumped out to you, grabbed your attention?
Yeah, let's start at number one, and I'll go with Ohio State's Jaxon Smith-Njigba, who, if we talk about what you just mentioned, isolating a wide receiver, he didn't even play this past season, just 60 snaps in total. But during that 1 year in 2021 with Ohio State, CJ Stroud, obviously at quarterback, Garrett Wilson at one wide receiver, Chris Olave in the other one. Then you had Jaxon at 6'1.5", 196 pounds, who was just a slot demon, like zero wasted movement. And just his ability to, create leverage, work on the toes of a cornerback if it's man coverage, or in zone where it's like so much trash and muddied up in the middle of the field. He just has like this particular mind meld with his quarterback that he's able to like sit in these windows, in these spots, and even work to the second or third gap if he needs to. And then as soon as he catches it, he just like rolls with the momentum and then picks up these chunk plays. Like, you will never consider him one of the top athletes at the wide receiver spot, but for him to be a plug and play player in this class, there's no doubt in my mind he should rank as number one.
You had a really interesting breakdown of a play he had against Penn State where he did everything that's good about him. To create a big play out of the gate was what you love about him, but then his downfield speed, he was tackled by Joey Porter Jr., and it was like, I thought it was a wonderful sort of encapsulation of what you love about him, but also why he's not a maybe elite guy on that level in terms of a speed angle.
Yeah, and I mean, he will set you up to lose immediately off the line in terms of like his release package, right? Like, he'll take even a jab step. The play you're talking about, Mark, is he took 2 steps with his left foot, which forced the corner to take the outside lane, and that's because he wanted the inside move up the field, and then sitting in that soft spot and then rolling away from momentum. And then, as you said, you constantly see him create separation and then sustain it, but then whenever he has 15 or 10 yards, then he'll get chased down at the end, which is totally fine. Like, I will give away some huge explosive moments of 60-yard touchdowns if this guy gets, 90, 100, 110 targets during his rookie season, if not way more than that is possible.
Right. Keenan Allen has gotten caught from behind a lot of times in the NFL, and we still see guys like, I don't know why old names are coming up, but Troy Williamson and Darius Hayward-Bay go high in the draft way back in the day just because they can break the big one. Like, the big one can be overrated. I like Smith-Njigba. They're at number one. I'm not worried that he missed last season. That feels very much like, look, I outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and I know there's reasons for that in terms of the system, but it was still on the same team with them and easily outproduced. And then when he wasn't on the same team with them, he puts up over 300 yards in the biggest game of the year. Like, that should matter for something. Like, we recognize Wes Welker and Julian Edelman when they were in the slot. Like, that was created by their scheme in part, but it was also still production, and it's like incredibly important. And the fact that he had a hamstring injury that basically kept him out all of last season, it felt like kind of like I'm sitting on where I put up a year ago. And that's fine. Like, you have your whole career in front of you. You don't want anything worse to happen. I totally get it. And I totally look at him as like an option route master. And not every team is running those option routes, but for the ones that do, like the Patriots, for instance, who are picking at 14, and to me, that this would be a receiver pick that could actually get right. They love the 3-cone drill. Jaxon Smith-Njigba's 3-cone drill was absolutely insane. I think that absolutely translates to winning in the slot. He has great concentration. Like, he stops suddenly like you would expect. Everything seems like it'll translate to a 1,000-yard plus receiver. And yeah, maybe you're not as excited about him being like a true one. But if you're putting up 1,200 yards every year as like a 1B, that's still a first-round pick.
Now, he only ran 6 routes in 1 or 2 wide receiver sets during his entire time at Ohio State. So I think there is even a question if he's even out there in 2 wide receiver sets when we see multiple tight ends or a fullback or whatever else on the field. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to circles to the start, like, the stigma of slot wide receivers, like, I don't think just exists anymore, because we just saw a guy in the Triple Crown win a couple of years ago in Cooper Kupp. And then on top of that, the money that Christian Kirk is worth the Jaguars. Chris Godwin is now a different kind of body. The name that you mentioned, I think Keenan Allen / Amon-Ra St. Brown, while they have like different body types, JSN can immediately come in and fill that type of production role. And I used to say, Greg and Mark, that like you can't build your wide receiver room or your passing offense around a slot wide receiver. And I think that's totally changed. Like you totally can now with how these coordinators, these play callers manufacture space and opportunities over the middle of the field for these players now.